Lisa Morgan stood at the entrance of the massive chamber, her heart beating fast as she looked at the enormous room before her. The Galactic Council Chamber on Nexus Prime was bigger than any building she had ever seen on Earth. Thousands of seats rose up in circles around a central platform where she would soon have to speak. Each seat held a different alien being, and their eyes were all watching her. She took a deep breath and walked toward the speaker's platform. Her blue diplomatic uniform felt heavy on her shoulders, and she carried a small device that held all of Earth's hopes for joining the galaxy's most important organization. As Earth's ambassador, she had trained for this moment for years, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of standing before so many powerful alien races. The Zelkari. Delegates sat in the highest section of the chamber. High Commander Vexthil was 7 feet tall, with gray skin that looked like metal and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. His red eyes glowed as he watched Lisa approach the platform. The Zelkari had ruled space for over 10,000 years, and everyone knew they were the most advanced race in the galaxy. Next to them sat the Corvan Empire's representatives. These warrior aliens looked like huge bears covered in black fur, with tusks that jutted from their mouths. They had conquered more worlds than any other race, and their military was feared across the galaxy. General Krexmar, their leader, was scratching his claws on the arm of his chair as he stared at Lisa with obvious boredom. The Ethereal Collective occupied another section of the chamber. These ancient beings looked like tall, thin humans, but their skin was almost transparent, and they seemed to glow with a soft blue light. They claimed to be the oldest intelligent race in the galaxy, and spent most of their time thinking deep thoughts about the meaning of existence. Elder Zephyra floated slightly above her seat, her large eyes closed as if she was already bored by the meeting. The Merchant Guild of Talanara filled the last major section. These aliens looked like large insects, with 6 arms and compound eyes that sparkled like jewels. They controlled most of the trade routes in the galaxy and were incredibly wealthy. Trade Master Klyx was counting something on a small device, while his translator buzzed with the sound of credits being moved between accounts. Lisa reached the platform and activated the speaking system. Her voice echoed through the chamber. As she began her presentation, she told them about Earth's history, about how humans had only been traveling in space for 300 years, but had already established colonies on dozens of worlds. She showed them pictures of Earth's cities, their technology, and their small but growing fleet of starships. Earth requests membership in the Galactic Defense Alliance, Lisa said, her voice steady despite her nervousness. We believe humanity can contribute to the peace and security of the galaxy. We offer our friendship and our willingness to learn from the great civilizations represented here today. The chamber was quiet for a moment. Then High Commander Vexthil started to laugh. It was a harsh, metallic sound that echoed off the walls. Soon other aliens joined in, and the chamber filled with the sound of thousands of beings laughing at Earth's request. 300 years, Vexthil said, his voice dripping with contempt. We have been traveling between stars for 10,000 years, and you think 3 centuries makes you worthy to sit with us? He stood up, his forearms gesturing dramatically. Your entire species has barely learned to leave its home system, and you want to join the beings who have shaped the galaxy for millennia. General Krexmar growled his agreement. The Corvan Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. Our warships can destroy planets. Your largest ship could fit inside our smallest fighter craft. He laughed, showing his sharp teeth. What could you possibly offer us? Entertainment? Elder Zephyra opened her glowing eyes and spoke in a voice that sounded like music. The Ethereal Collective has existed since before your son was born. We have seen civilizations rise and fall like waves on an ocean. Humanity is still in its infancy. Perhaps in another 10,000 years, You might be ready to speak as equals." Trade Master Kleitz clicked his mandibles together in what Lisa realized was laughter. "Your entire economy could not buy a single one of our trade vessels. Your technology is so primitive that we use better computers to manage our waste disposal systems." Lisa felt her face burn with embarrassment, but she tried to maintain her dignity. "We may be young compared to your great civilizations, but we have shown remarkable progress. Our scientists have made discoveries that might interest you. Our military has defended Earth against threats. We are eager to learn and contribute." "Contribute?" Vexthul's laughter became even louder. "What could you possibly contribute? Your ships are toys compared to our battle cruisers. Your weapons are like throwing rocks at armored warriors. Your technology is so far behind ours that it would take you 1,000,000 years to catch up." The other delegates nodded and made sounds of agreement. Lisa could see that her presentation had failed completely. These ancient, powerful races saw humanity as nothing more than children playing with dangerous toys. Meanwhile, far above the chamber in Earth's orbital defense platform, Commander Jake Patterson watched the proceedings through a quantum communication link. His hands were clenched into fists as he listened to the aliens mock his species. Next to him, Lieutenant Amy Ross shook her head in disgust. "They act like we're nothing," Amy said quietly. "Like we don't deserve to exist in the same galaxy as them." Jake nodded, his jaw tight with anger. "They'll regret this someday. They think they know everything about us, but they don't know anything." Back in the chamber, High Commander Vexthul delivered the final judgment. "The Galactic Council has heard Earth's request for membership in the Defense Alliance. We find that humanity is far too primitive and inexperienced to join our ranks. Perhaps in 1,000 years, when you have proven yourselves worthy, you may apply again." He paused, then added with cruel amusement, "Until then, we suggest you focus on playing in your little solar system and leave the real business of governing the galaxy to those of us who actually understand it." The chamber erupted in laughter. Again, as Lisa stood alone on the platform, her dignity the only thing she had left. The vote was unanimous. Earth was rejected, dismissed, and humiliated before the entire galaxy. Lisa gathered her materials and walked out of the chamber with her head held high. But inside she burned with the memory of their laughter. She had no way of knowing that this moment of humiliation would soon become the catalyst for humanity's greatest triumph. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council laughed at Earth's request to join their alliance. Lisa Morgan had returned home with the bitter taste of rejection still fresh in her memory. Life went on as usual for most humans, but deep space, monitoring stations across the galaxy, were picking up something strange. Captain Ben Martinez was flying his merchant ship Star Trader through the Outer Rim territories when the first signs appeared. His cargo hold was full of rare minerals from the mining colonies, and he was heading to the Talanara trading post at Kepler Station to make a profit. Ben had been a space trader for 15 years and knew these routes better than anyone. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Usually, the communication channels were full of chatter from other ships, station controllers, and automated beacons. Today, there was nothing but empty static. Ben tried to contact Kepler Station, but got no response. "That's strange," he muttered to himself as he adjusted his ship's course. "They should be answering by now." As his ship came around the asteroid field that hid Kepler Station, Ben's blood turned cold. Where the massive trading post should have been, there was nothing but empty space and floating debris. The station that had housed 50,000 beings was completely gone. Ben immediately sent out an emergency signal and began scanning the area for survivors. His ship's computer detected traces of an unknown energy signature, unlike anything in the databases. The debris showed signs of being torn apart by some kind of advanced technology, but the metal had strange marks on it, as if it had been partially dissolved. While Ben was discovering the destruction at Kepler Station, similar reports were coming in from across the outer rim. Research stations, mining colonies, and trading posts were simply vanishing without a trace. The few survivors who escaped told impossible stories of mechanical monsters that appeared from nowhere and consumed everything in their path. On Earth, Dr. Amy Chillen was working late in her laboratory at the Xenobiology Research Center. She had spent years studying alien life forms and technologies, trying to understand how humanity could better fit into the galactic community. When the first reports of missing colonies reached Earth, Amy was asked to lead a team of scientists to analyze the data. The information they received was frightening. Whatever was destroying the outer rim colonies was not like any known threat. The energy signatures were completely alien, and the destruction patterns showed signs of incredible intelligence and technology. Amy worked with military strategist Colonel Rick Davis to try to understand what they were facing. "Look at these patterns," Amy said, pointing to her computer screen. "Whatever did this didn't just destroy these colonies. It studied them first. See how the damage is concentrated on the technology centers and research facilities? Something was learning from them before destroying them." Colonel Davis frowned as he looked at the data. "Learning what?" "Everything," Amy replied grimly. "Their technology, their defenses, their weaknesses. And if I'm right, whatever is doing this is getting smarter with each attack." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was beginning to panic. The Corvin Empire sent their most powerful warships to investigate the outer rim attacks. General Krexmar led a fleet of 50 star destroyers, each one capable of destroying entire planets. They were confident that their superior firepower would quickly end whatever threat had emerged. The Corvin fleet found the enemy at the Epsilon cluster, where 3 mining worlds had recently gone silent. What they discovered there shook the foundation of everything they believed about their military supremacy. The attackers were machines, but not like any artificial intelligence they had encountered before. The Devourers, as they came to be known, were massive mechanical beings that could adapt and change their form during battle. They absorbed technology from defeated enemies and incorporated it into their own systems. When the Corvin fleet opened fire with their most powerful weapons, the Devourers' shields adapted within minutes to deflect the attacks. General Krexmar watched in horror as his mighty star destroyers were torn apart by weapons that seemed learn and improve with each shot. The mechanical horrors moved through space like liquid metal, reshaping themselves to become more effective killing machines. His fleet, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, was reduced to scrap metal in less than an hour. The few Corvin ships that escaped brought terrifying news back to the Galactic Council. The Devourers were not just destroying civilizations, they were consuming them, learning from them, and becoming stronger with each victory. The Ethereal Collective tried using their powerful psychic abilities against the mechanical invaders. Elder Zephyra led a group of their most gifted mind warriors to confront the Devourers directly. They discovered that the machines had no organic thoughts to manipulate, no emotions to control, and no fear to exploit. Worse, the Devourers seemed able to analyze and counter psychic attacks, creating some kind of mental static that made the Ethereal's powers useless. Trademaster Klyx of the Merchant Guild watched his profitable trade routes disappear one by one as the Devourers moved closer to the galactic core. His advanced computers and communication networks were powerless against an enemy that could hack into any system and turn it against its owners. Back on Earth, Commander Jake Patterson was given permission to take his exploration ship UES Discovery on reconnaissance missions to gather intelligence about the threat. Despite orders to stay in human space for safety, Jake knew that Earth needed to understand what was coming. His first mission took him to the ruins of a Zelkari research station. What he found there made his blood run cold. The station had been stripped clean of all technology and organic matter. The hull showed the same strange dissolving marks that Ben Martinez had seen at Kepler Station. But more frightening were the mechanical creatures still crawling over the debris, analyzing and cataloging everything they found. Jake managed to record detailed scans of the Devourers before retreating to safe distance. The data he collected showed that these were not random destroyers, but highly intelligent beings with a specific purpose. They were studying galactic civilization, learning its strengths and weaknesses, preparing for something even worse to come. As reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy, it became clear that the established powers were facing their greatest threat ever. The Zelkari's advanced energy shields, the Corvin's overwhelming firepower, the Ethereal's psychic abilities, and the Talanara's technological networks were all proving useless against an enemy that could adapt to any defense and counter any attack. The galaxy that had laughed at Earth's primitive technology was now desperately searching for any solution to a threat that their advanced civilizations could not handle. But they were too proud to ask for help from the humans they had rejected, even as their mighty empires began to crumble before the advancing mechanical tide. On Earth, Dr. Amy Chun looked at the latest intelligence reports and made a chilling prediction. If these Devourers continue learning and adapting at this rate, the entire galaxy will be consumed within 2 years. Unless something changes, we're all going to die. The Devourers had been pushing deeper into civilized space for 3 months. Entire star systems were disappearing from the galactic maps, consumed by the mechanical horrors that learned from every battle and grew stronger with each victory. The proud alien races that had once ruled the galaxy were now running for their lives. High Commander Vextel sat in his command center on the Zelkari homeworld, watching the tactical displays with growing horror. Half of his empire's territory had already fallen to the Devourers. His most advanced warships, equipped with technology that had taken 10,000 years to develop, were being destroyed faster than they could be built. For the first time in his long life, Vextel felt something he had never experienced before: desperation. The Zelkari had always been the most advanced race in the galaxy. Their technology was superior to everyone else's, their military was unbeatable, and their intelligence was beyond question. But now they were losing a war against an enemy they couldn't understand or defeat. "Sir," his communications officer said nervously, "we're receiving evacuation requests from 17 more systems. The civilian populations are demanding transport to safer regions." Vextel looked at the star map. Most of the safer regions were already under attack or would be soon. There was only one area of space that the Devourers hadn't touched yet: human territory. The same primitive region that the Galactic Council had dismissed as insignificant was now the only safe haven left. "Contact the human ambassador," Vextel said quietly. "Tell her we need to discuss evacuation options." Words tasted like poison in his mouth, but he had no choice. The beings he had mocked 6 months ago were now his only hope for survival. On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan was in the middle of an emergency meeting with the planet's military leadership. General Rick Thompson of the Colonial Defense Force was reviewing casualty reports from the outer colonies, while Director Susan Clark of the Advanced Research Division was analyzing the latest intelligence on Devourer technology. "The situation is getting worse," General Thompson said grimly. "Every day we're getting more refugee ships from the alien territories. Our colonies are becoming overcrowded, and we don't have enough resources to support everyone." Admiral Sullivan nodded. "What about our defensive preparations?" Director Clark looked uncomfortable. "We're doing everything we can with conventional weapons, but based on the data we've gathered, the Devourers will adapt to our technology, just like they did with the aliens. We need something else." "We have something else," Admiral Sullivan said quietly. "It's time." She activated a secured communication channel and spoke a single code word, Phantom. Across the room, a section of the wall slid away to reveal a hidden chamber. Inside, Dr. Paul Harris stepped out, carrying a briefcase that contained the most closely guarded secret in human history. Dr. Harris was a thin, quiet man who had spent the last 50 years working on a project that no one outside of Earth's highest leadership knew about. While the alien races had been developing bigger weapons and stronger shields, humanity had been working on something completely different. "Gentlemen," Dr. Harris said as he opened his briefcase, "let me show you what we've really been doing while the galaxy laughed at us." Inside the briefcase was a device no bigger than a computer tablet. It looked ordinary, but the energy readings it gave off were unlike anything in known science. Dr. Harris activated the device, and suddenly the room seemed to shimmer and fade. "Quantum field manipulation," Dr. Harris explained. "We discovered that by shifting matter into a dimensional phase state, we can make objects exist in multiple realities simultaneously. To sensors in normal space, they appear to be invisible. To weapons, they might as well not exist at all." General Thompson stared in amazement. "You mean we can make our ships invisible?" "Not just invisible," Dr. Harris said with a small smile. "Untouchable. A ship in quantum phase can move through normal matter like it's not there. It can appear anywhere, strike without warning, and disappear before the enemy can respond." Admiral Sullivan stood up. "How many ships do we have equipped with this technology?" "All of them," Director Clark said. "Every human vessel built in the last 30 years has quantum phase capability. What the aliens saw as our small fleet was just the ships we allowed them to detect. Our real fleet has been hidden in quantum space, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself." The scale of the deception was staggering. While alien races had been dismissing humanity as primitive newcomers, Earth scientists and engineers had been secretly developing technology that made conventional warfare obsolete. The exploration missions that Commander Jake Patterson had been running weren't just gathering intelligence. They were placing quantum beacons throughout the galaxy, creating a network that would allow human ships to appear anywhere instantly. Captain Ben Martinez, who had discovered the first Devourer attack, was now serving as a liaison between human forces and the growing number of alien refugees. He watched in amazement as Admiral Sullivan revealed the truth about Earth's capabilities. "We've been studying alien technology for decades," Admiral Sullivan explained. "Every trade agreement, every diplomatic mission, every cultural exchange gave us access to your science. We learned from all of you, took the best ideas from each race, and combined them with our own innovations." The irony was perfect. The alien races had rejected humanity because they were newcomers who had only been in space for 300 years. But that short time had actually been humanity's greatest advantage. While the established powers had become set in their ways, confident in technologies that had worked for millennia, humans had approached every problem with fresh eyes. Dr. Harris activated another device, and the room filled with holographic displays showing the true extent of Earth's military capabilities. Massive starships appeared on the screens, each one incorporating design elements from every major alien race, but enhanced with quantum technology that made them virtually unstoppable. "The U.S. Liberty," Admiral Sullivan said, pointing to a massive carrier vessel. "Zelkari energy systems, Corvin armor plating, ethereal navigation computers, and Talinara communication arrays, all enhanced with quantum phase technology. U.S. Victory," she continued, indicating a sleek battleship, designed specifically to counter Devourer adaptive capabilities. Its weapons exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them impossible to analyze or counter. General Thompson was speechless. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since the day we first made contact with alien civilizations," Admiral Sullivan replied. "We knew we were behind in technology, so we made sure we were ahead in strategy. While they were laughing at our primitive ships, we were learning everything we could about them." The communication panel beeped, and Lisa Morgan's face appeared on the screen. She was calling from the diplomatic station, where she had been coordinating refugee efforts. "Admiral," Lisa said, "I just received an official communication from High Commander Vexthal. The Zelkari are formally requesting permission to evacuate their civilian population to human space. They're also asking for military assistance against the Devourers." Admiral Sullivan smiled grimly. "Tell him we'll consider his request. But first, he needs to formally apologize for the way he treated humanity at the Galactic Council." "Ma'am," Lisa said carefully, "they're desperate. Their homeworld is under direct attack. Billions of lives are at stake." "I know," Admiral Sullivan replied. "But they need to understand that the primitive humans they mocked are now their only hope. For survival, humility's a lesson that's long overdue." As the meeting ended, Dr. Harris looked out the window at Earth's orbital stations. In a few hours, the hidden human fleet would reveal itself to the galaxy. The sky would indeed go dark with humanity's ships, and the aliens who had laughed at Earth would finally understand what they had been blind to all along. The youngest race in the galaxy was about to become its savior, using the very qualities that had made them outcasts: their fresh perspective, their willingness to learn, and their refusal to accept that things couldn't be done differently. The real war was about to begin, but for the first time since the Yunzens. Devourers appeared. Someone finally had a plan that might actually work. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign, humanity's most advanced quantum battleship. Around her, the command crew worked at stations that displayed tactical information from across the galaxy. Today was the day that Earth would reveal its true power to the universe. "Operation Starfall is ready to begin," reported Captain Danny Shaw from the UES Liberty. His massive carrier ship was positioned in quantum space near the Zelkari homeworld, completely invisible too. Both Devourer and alien sensors. "All ships report ready," announced Captain Linda Foster from the UES Victory. Her battleship was leading a strike force near Corvin Space, where 3 Devourer command vessels were preparing to attack the Empire's capital world. "Admiral," Sullivan looked at the tactical display that showed the positions of over 200 human ships scattered across the galaxy. For 50 years, these vessels had remained hidden in quantum space, waiting for this moment. The aliens who had laughed at humanity's small visible fleet had no idea that Earth's real military was 20 times larger than anything they had ever seen. "Dr. Harris," Admiral Sullivan said to the scientist standing beside her, "are the quantum tunnel networks ready?" "All beacons are active," Dr. Harris replied, checking his readings. "We can coordinate attacks across multiple sectors simultaneously. The Devourers won't be able to adapt fast enough to counter attacks happening in different dimensions at the same time." Meanwhile, High Commander Vexthal was defending his homeworld with the last of his forces. The massive Devourer fleet had surrounded the Zelkari home system, and their mechanical ships were slowly closing in like predators surrounding wounded prey. Vexthal had already lost most of his military, and his proud civilization was hours away from complete destruction. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the humans are responding to our request for assistance. Admiral Sullivan says they will help us, but first you must formally apologize for your treatment of their ambassador." Vexthal's pride warred with his desperation. 6 months ago, he had laughed at the primitive humans and dismissed them as unworthy of joining galactic civilization. Now those same humans were his only hope for survival. "Open a channel to Earth," he said quietly. When Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on his screen, Vexthal did something he had never done in his long life. He bowed his head in shame. "Admiral Sullivan," he said, his voice heavy with regret, "I formally apologize for the disrespect shown to your people and your ambassador. The Zelkari were wrong to judge humanity by our limited understanding. We ask for your forgiveness and your help in our darkest hour." Admiral Sullivan nodded gravely. "Apology accepted, High Commander. Now watch the sky." She closed the communication and turned to her crew. "All ships, begin Operation Starfall. Show them what humanity can really do." Across the galaxy, space itself seemed to ripple and tear as hundreds of human ships emerged from quantum space simultaneously. Near the Zelkari homeworld, the U's Liberty appeared directly behind the Devourer command ship, its quantum cannons already charging. The mechanical vessel tried to turn and adapt its shields, but the human weapons fired from multiple dimensions at once, making defense impossible. Captain Shaw watched with satisfaction as the massive Devourer ship broke apart under the dimensional assault. Target destroyed, moving to next objective. At the same time, Captain Foster's strike force materialized around a Devourer harvesting operation in Corvin space. The U's victory led 12 smaller ships in a coordinated attack that used quantum tunnel technology to strike from impossible angles. The Devourers found themselves fighting enemies that could appear and disappear at will, attacking from above, below, and through dimensions that the mechanical intelligence couldn't even detect. "This is Captain Foster to all ships," Linda announced, over the battle communication system. "Remember, these machines learn from conventional attacks. Keep shifting dimensional phases and don't use the same tactic twice." The human ships moved like ghosts through space, appearing long enough to strike devastating blows before vanishing back into quantum space. The Devourers, which had adapted to counter every alien weapon and defense, found themselves facing an enemy that fought by completely different rules. Commander Jake Patterson, now commanding the upgraded UES Discovery, led a squadron of reconnaissance ships in a daring assault on a Devourer research facility. His years of secret intelligence gathering had identified this location as a key node in the mechanical network. "Discovery to all units," Jake announced as his ship phased through the facility's shields like they didn't exist. "Plant the quantum viruses and get out. We've got 30 seconds before they adapt to our presence." The human ships moved through the Devourer facility like deadly phantoms, uploading Dr. Harris's specially designed computer viruses directly into the mechanical systems. These viruses were designed to exist in quantum states, making them impossible for the Devourers to analyze or remove using conventional methods. Back on the Zelkari homeworld, Vexthul watched in amazement as human ships darkened the sky around his planet. The vessels that appeared were massive beyond anything he had imagined. Each one was larger than his biggest warships, and their quantum drives created ripples in space-time that interfered with Devourer coordination systems. "How is this possible?" he whispered to his tactical officer. "Their ships are more advanced than ours. How did we not know about this?" Captain Ben Martinez, who was now serving as a human liaison officer aboard Vexthul's command ship, smiled grimly. "You didn't know because you never bothered to look past your own assumptions. You saw what you expected to see and ignored what was really there." The battle raged across multiple star systems as humanity's hidden fleet revealed the full extent of their capabilities. Ships that could exist in several dimensions simultaneously, weapons that fired through quantum tunnels to strike targets on the other side of the galaxy, and defensive systems that made human vessels effectively untouchable by conventional weapons. Dr. Amy Chun, now serving as a tactical advisor aboard the UES Sovereign, monitored the effectiveness of the quantum viruses that Commander Patterson's team had deployed. "Admiral, the viruses are working. The Devourer network is experiencing cascading failures across 17 sectors." "Excellent," Admiral Sullivan replied. "All ships, Phase 2 of the operation. Target the command nexuses while their coordination is disrupted. Captain Steve Rogers, commanding the UES Defiance, led a strike force against the largest Devourer command vessel ever encountered. The mechanical ship was the size of a small moon and contained the primary intelligence controlling the invasion. Fleet, defiance to all units, Steve announced as his ship prepared for the most dangerous part of the mission. We're going to phase directly into the enemy command center. Once we're inside, we'll be cut off from quantum space. This is a one-way trip, unless we can destroy their core systems. Understood, Defiance, Admiral Sullivan responded. The fate of the galaxy is in your hands. As the human fleet pressed their attack, the tide of war began to shift for the first time since the Devourers had appeared. The mechanical intelligence that had seemed unstoppable was finally facing an enemy it couldn't adapt to quickly enough. Across the galaxy, alien survivors watched in awe as human ships moved through space like living shadows, striking with precision and power that defied everything they thought they knew about warfare. The species they had dismissed as primitive were fighting with tactics and technologies that the oldest civilizations had never even imagined. The sky had indeed gone dark with humanity's ships, and for the first time in months, the galaxy had hope that the Devourer threat could be defeated. But the final battle was yet to come, and humanity would need every advantage they had secretly developed to win the war that would determine the fate of all intelligent life. The final battle was taking place in the Nexus system, where the primary Devourer intelligence had built its command center. Admiral Kate Sullivan personally led the assault aboard the UES Sovereign, followed by a fleet of humanity's most advanced warships. This was the moment that would decide the fate of the galaxy. Devourer Command Center was a massive structure that stretched across an entire asteroid field. It pulsed with dark energy and mechanical activity as billions of artificial minds worked together to coordinate the invasion fleet. Smaller Devourer ships swarmed around it like insects protecting their hive. All ships maintain quantum phase. Until we reach the target, Admiral Sullivan ordered from the bridge of the Sovereign. Around her, the crew worked with calm efficiency, despite knowing that this battle would determine whether their species would survive or be consumed along with the rest of the galaxy. Captain Jake Patterson, commanding the upgraded UES Discovery, used his years of reconnaissance experience to guide the Allied forces through the Devourer defenses. His ship's sensors had been modified with quantum technology that could detect weaknesses in the enemy formation. Admiral, I'm reading a gap in their defensive grid, Jake reported. The main structure has a quantum resonance frequency that we can exploit. If we can get close enough, we might be able to disrupt their entire network. Good work, Patterson, Admiral Sullivan replied. All ships follow the Discovery's lead. Stay tight and watch for adaptive countermeasures. The human fleet moved through space like a school of deadly fish, appearing and disappearing in quantum. Flashes that confused the Devourer sensors. The mechanical ships tried to target them, but the humans were fighting in dimensions that the artificial intelligence couldn't fully understand. Meanwhile, Dr. Amy Chun was working frantically in the Sovereign Science Lab. Her research into alien biology had led to a shocking discovery about the Devourers. Despite their mechanical appearance, deep inside their quantum processors were traces of organic neural patterns from their original creators. Admiral, Amy, called over the communication system. I've found something important. The Devourers aren't completely artificial. They still have biological components buried in their core systems. That's why they can learn and adapt so quickly. But it's also their weakness. What kind of weakness? Admiral Sullivan asked while watching the tactical display as human ships engaged Devourer defenders. They process information the same way organic brains do, just much faster, Amy explained. If we can introduce a quantum virus that mimics organic thought patterns, we might be able to confuse their entire network. Dr. Paul Harris, who was monitoring the quantum systems from the bridge, immediately understood what Amy was suggesting. We can modify our quantum viruses to create false memories and conflicting data streams. It would be like giving the entire Devourer network a mental breakdown. Captain Danny Shaw, leading his carrier Hughes Liberty through a swarm of enemy fighters, heard the conversation over the fleet communication network. "Doctor, how do we get close enough to upload this virus?" "That command center is protected by shields that adapt to everything we throw at them." "We need someone to get inside," Amy replied. "Past all their defenses, directly into the core of their intelligence." Admiral Sullivan made a decision that surprised everyone. "I'll do it. The Sovereign has the most advanced quantum systems. If anyone can phase through their defenses and reach the core, it's us." "Admiral, that's suicide," Captain Linda Foster protested from the UES Victory. "Even if you can get inside, you'll be trapped in normal space with no way to escape." "Someone has to take the risk," Admiral Sullivan said firmly. "This is what we trained for. This is why Earth spent 50 years preparing in secret." Captain Steve Rogers, commanding the UES Defiance, moved his ship alongside the Sovereign. "You're not going alone, Admiral. The Defiance will escort you in." "Same here," announced Captain Ben Martinez from his upgraded merchant vessel, now armed with quantum weapons. "The Star Trader may not be a warship, but I know how to fly through impossible spaces." Admiral Sullivan felt proud of her people. These humans who had been dismissed as primitive by the galaxy were now willing to sacrifice everything to save the civilizations that had mocked them. "All ships, begin the final assault," she ordered. "Cover our approach to the command center." The human fleet launched their most devastating attack yet. Quantum torpedoes that existed in multiple dimensions struck the Devourer defenses from impossible angles. Fighter craft that could phase between realities confused the enemy targeting systems. Capital ships coordinated through quantum entanglement networks moved like parts of a single organism. Captain Jake Patterson led his reconnaissance squadron in a daring maneuver that drew away most of the Devourer defenders. "Discovery to all ships. The path is clear. Admiral, you have a window of 30 seconds." The UE Sovereign and its escorts phase shifted directly through the outer defenses of the command center. Admiral Sullivan watched as her ship passed through layers of energy shields and armor plating like they were made of smoke. The quantum technology that Dr. Harris had developed was performing beyond even their greatest hopes. "We're inside the core structure," reported the Sovereign's navigation officer. "Quantum phase is holding, but the enemy is adapting to our frequency." Dr. Amy Chun ran to the bridge carrying a data storage device that contained the modified quantum virus. "Admiral, this virus is programmed with organic thought patterns from every species in the galaxy. When it uploads into the Devourer network, it will create so many conflicting commands that their entire system should collapse." "How do we deliver it?" Admiral Sullivan asked. "Direct physical contact with their central processor," Amy replied. "Someone will have to carry it manually to the core." Captain Patterson's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, we've found the central core. It's heavily defended, but there's an access port that looks designed for maintenance." "I'll go," Admiral Sullivan decided. "Amy, prepare the virus for manual upload." 20 minutes later, Admiral Sullivan was walking through the corridors of the Yadna Devourer Command Center, wearing a quantum phase suit that kept her partially shifted between dimensions. The mechanical intelligence was trying to adapt to her presence, but the constant phase shifting made it impossible to target her effectively. She reached the central core, a massive chamber filled with processing units that pulsed with artificial thought. At the center was a neural interface that connected all the Devourer minds across the galaxy. Admiral Sullivan attached Amy's virus to the interface and activated the upload sequence. The effect was immediate and devastating. The quantum virus spread through the Devourer network like wildfire, creating false memories and contradictory commands. The mechanical minds that had been perfectly coordinated suddenly began fighting each other as conflicting programming made them. Unable to distinguish between allies and enemies, across the galaxy, Devourer ships stopped moving as they're controlling. Intelligence collapsed into chaos. The mechanical network that had threatened to consume all life was destroyed by the one thing it couldn't adapt to: the chaotic, illogical, beautiful complexity of organic thought. Admiral Sullivan made it back to her ship just as the command center began to tear itself apart. The Sovereign and its escorts escaped into quantum space, seconds before the entire structure exploded in a cascade of dimensional energy. The war was over. Humanity had saved the galaxy dot in the months that followed. The Galactic Council was reformed with Earth as its leading member. Admiral Sullivan became the first Supreme Commander of the new Galactic Defense Force, charged with protecting all civilizations from future threats. Ambassador Lisa Morgan addressed the new council from the bridge of the U East Liberty, which now served as Earth's mobile embassy. The same aliens who had laughed at humanity 6 months earlier now looked to humans for protection and guidance. Earth accepts its new responsibilities, Lisa announced to the assembled delegates. But we will never forget how we were treated when we offered friendship. The galaxy has learned that wisdom and strength don't always come from age and tradition. Sometimes the youngest voices carry the most innovative ideas. High Commander Vexthal, his pride forever humbled, bowed deeply to the human ambassador. The Zelkare pledge eternal friendship to humanity. We have learned that true advancement comes not from dismissing others, but from learning from them. Captain Jake Patterson's final log entry reflected on humanity's incredible journey. The species that had been rejected for being too young and inexperienced had saved the galaxy precisely because they were newcomers who weren't trapped by old thinking. Earth's disadvantage had become its greatest strength, proving that sometimes the universe needs fresh perspectives to solve ancient problems.